Civil Liberties Union is now arguing, rightly so, that the U.S. and El Salvador have at least joint control over that El Salvadoran prison. And if you have control, then you have the ability to bring somebody back and have them return. And that's what Boasberg is struggling with. Now, in a hearing early this week, in front of Boasberg, a new lawyer for the Department of Justice, they trotted out, got their head handed to them by the judge. The judge pointed to statements made by Trump and Kristi Noem particularly, and then questioned whether they were telling the truth or not. In other words, he called out Trump and Noem and said they weren't telling the truth. He said, let me get this straight as we're trying to figure out who has control over El Salvador. He said, I watched, along with the rest of America, the interviews that were on, Kristen Welker, NBC, and Terry Moran on ABC about Donald Trump being able to pick up the phone and get Abrego Garcia back. And why isn't that relevant to control? Was he telling the truth? And the lawyer said, well, we're conflating how Donald Trump sees his outsized influence around the world with actual legal control. And then the lawyer said, the judge said, so he wasn't telling the truth, Donald Trump. Oh, well, I don't want to parse that statement. Well, you're there, Mr. Department of Justice attorney, to do exactly that when a federal judge asks you to. He then said, okay, what about, well, in fact, let me show you the two clips the judge was referring to, almost calling it by name. Again, I had said every time Donald Trump says something out loud in these interviews, it's going to be used in the courtrooms. The lawyers are going to bring it to the judge's attention, and the judges are going to bring it to the party's attention. Let's play the back-to-back clips. Kristen Welker first, and then Terry Moran saying the phone's on the desk. Why don't you pick it up and use it? Let's play both back-to-back.
Because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that. There are some people that say, bring them back, put them in trial, and you get them out right away.
Let me ask about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not have said that, And just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound, this is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
He came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that
I'm not
release.
the one making this decision. We have lawyers
You're the
that
president.
don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this
No,
office.
no. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he
Supreme
is.
Court.
So that came up in the courtroom and the lawyer's lack of response for it. Feeling a little stalled out in the bedroom? Through HIMSS, you can get some gas back in the tank with personalized ED treatment options that are accessible without ever stepping foot into a doctor's office. HIMSS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMSS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable tablets, Viagra, and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% less. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just fill out an intake form on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMSS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/legalaf. That's HIMS.com/legalaf for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/legalaf. And the lawyer for the Department of Justice had no better response when he said, let's go back to control again. And didn't Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, in standing in front of that actual jail in El Salvador called CICOT, didn't she say that it was part of the toolbox of America? This was a tool in the toolbox. America's use of this El Salvadoran prison, doesn't that imply control? And in fact, let me play the clip.
You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
The judge says, you heard her. Tool in a toolbox. Well, the nuances are lost sometimes on politicians and it doesn't really mean legal control. So she wasn't telling the truth. Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to parse every statement. You are there, sir, to parse every statement or whatever else the judge tells you to do. So while the judge is trying to figure this out and is having difficulty, he finally put up his hands. He said, okay, I'm not getting straight answers in this courtroom. The judge is already getting, fed up with the Trump administration, having already found them in likelihood of criminal contempt. He said, starting now, you're going to be submitting to me by next week for the world to see written statements under oath about the relationship between America and El Salvador, the payment structure, the contract, the agreement, whatever it is that allowed America to take people, other human beings without due process, and dump them into a jail. I want to see all of that information and those documents. He said, for instance, we've heard that there was a $6 million payment made for this, and the lawyers tried to tap dance around that. Oh, well, that was really a grant. Follow this convoluted argument. That was really a grant that went to the El Salvador, and they could use it for whatever they wanted while they're housing. But it's not directly for the housing of these prisoners. See how convoluted? And they did this on purpose to try to cover their tracks, how they wired the money. But now the judge is like, okay, by next week I want it under oath. Because what he's trying to do at this moment is not trying to find out whether the Trump administration is in contempt again. He's trying to confirm whether he has jurisdiction. That's a very important part of what judges do. At the outset, there's two things a judge has to check the box on right away in a lawsuit, federal or state. One, do the parties before me have a live case or controversy? Because the parties also have standing to sue, to present their claims. They're not asking me for an advisory opinion. They have real injury, and they're the right party to bring that case into court. Standing is first, and at the same time, does the court have jurisdiction? Are we in the right courtroom? Are we in the right courthouse? Are we in the right court between state and federal? Do I have jurisdiction? And are these the right parties with a live case or controversy in front of me? Check, 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 right? I guess it's three things there. Once that's determined, so that's what the judge is struggling with now. Do I have jurisdiction? Can I order something to happen here? And so the ACLU said, yes, there's badges of all of this cut control over that prison in the hands of the U.S. I mean, does anybody really believe Donald Trump just backed other human beings into a prison, paid $6 million, and didn't get a receipt?